Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Capricia Penavic Marshall, who served as protocol chief for President Barack Obama and social secretary for President Bill Clinton. And she's also the author of Protocol, The Power of Diplomacy and How to Make It Work for You. We are going to discuss effective protocol strategies for Fortune 500 business leaders. Capricia, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you for having me, Jill.
Give us a high-level overview of your unique background.
I served in very high-level postings in our government in two administrations. I served in the Clinton administration as social secretary, which managed every event that occurred on the grounds of the White House and traveled with the president all over the world. And then during the Obama administration, I worked in the State Department and traveled again with the president all over the world, managing every aspect of his protocol.
That's really quite remarkable. We're grateful to have you spend time with us today. What were the motivations behind writing the book? Who would you say is the target audience?
Well, my postings in government, both as social secretary and chief of protocol, offered me immense opportunities to learn just a vast number of lessons and develop some really unique tools to assist the president and secretary of state, vice president, those at the highest levels of our government to attain their goals. Once I was engaged with the private sector, it became clear to me that they were missing out quite a bit, and particularly as they attempted to reach global audiences. How could I sharpen their focus and use the tools that I had learned for these high-level government officials to help C-suite office holders pivot the power in their direction with attention to things like these micro details. I talk a lot about in my book, those nuances, those small details that will make incredible difference, such as where do you hold a meeting? What does that meeting room look like? What's the mindset that you're putting yourself in and your counterpart when you're trying to come to that agreement? I knew in the private sector that I could help many companies, many CEOs, as I said, C-suite office holders, sway the decision-making in their favor, pivot the power in their direction. And since then, I have worked with companies such as 3M, FTI, Bloomberg, and so many others.
It's so interesting. So it kind of shows how modern day state diplomacy and protocol apply to the boardroom and the private sector. How is what you've learned in service to past U.S. leaders apply in everyday business life?
Well, in my position, a big piece of it was identity branding, if you will. That's a form of cultural intelligence. It's the ability to collaborate with people who think and act differently from ourselves. When I was at the State Department, every day I was trying to convey who we are as Americans. What are we all about? Equally, I was also learning, with our global partners, who are they? What's important to them? As companies, when they begin to become a bit more focused on their global nature, the manner in which they operate cannot be uniquely American. You have to understand both sides of the coin. And so I really talk about, and particularly in my book, about how businesses want to have a strong identity and who want to convey their inner culture. How can they go about doing that? Honing in on cultural traits like defining their ethos, how employees who follow a particular protocol, in working within certain structures, is this hierarchical or is this egalitarian? I strongly suggest that in addition to HR departments, that you hire a culture officer. Culture is so pivotal to employees for retention purposes and productivity. Create shared experiences around the company that has shared values so that you bring cohesiveness to the operation and embrace, of course, diversity and inclusion. Because we know when you have diversity around the table, when you have different voices around the table, better decisions are made, and oftentimes it leads to profitability.
And Capricia, has state diplomacy and protocol in both the public and private sector deviated in light of COVID-19, or are there new trends that will stay with us for the foreseeable future?
I think the new trend that we're going to see for the foreseeable future is what we're experiencing right now, Jill. I think the virtual space is here to stay. You can reach a broader audience from around the world. I can be speaking right now to people, face to face in other countries that, but for if we were trying to travel, would be a bit more difficult. So I think the virtual space certainly will continue to be with us for some time. Now, we've seen President Biden, he's already had bilaterals that are virtual with Prime Minister Cameron and President Obrador of Mexico. We saw the G7 meeting virtually. The Munich conference as well, meeting virtually. And I understand that the UN General Assembly more than likely will have some sort of hybrid model of those who can come in person and those who will have to be meeting virtually. So I think this is going to be here with us for quite some time.
Right. And to your point, the virtual audience allows you to build bigger and more diverse and inclusive audiences and workforces. So I think that's a good thing that we've learned out of the pandemic. So to wrap up here, where do you envision yourself professionally in the next few years? I mean, you've served to the top of government.
Well, I've loved those postings in my government service, and I want to take that message more broadly. I'm building out a platform based upon my book to have master classes on the importance of protocol and our diplomatic engagements in the private sector and, in our individual lives. I think we have so much, in particular at this time, to teach the youth of our homes and our country about the importance of getting to know other people from other places. So I'm going to focus my attentions on that.
All right, Capricia, fantastic conversation. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.